Good afternoon, and thanks for taking the time to join today's webinar with Diligent, an intro to board portals. Make 2016 the year your board truly goes digital. My name is Danielle Nathanson, and I'm part of the marketing team here at Diligent. I'm joined today by my colleague Richard Harrison, who has been with Diligent for more than 5 years and has helped hundreds of corporate admin, legal, and IT teams streamline their board meeting prep process. So before we get started today, I just want to go over a few housekeeping items. Today's webinar should last about 30 minutes. It will be recorded and a replay will be sent out to all registrants shortly after the session. Please feel free to share the replay with your colleagues. Also, please feel free to ask your questions at any time by utilizing the questions pane in the GoToWebinar panel. Before Richard gets started, we'd just like to do a quick poll here for you all. And so we are interested to know how you primarily prepare and distribute your board materials. So do you stick strictly to paper packs? Maybe email, PDF, Word documents, SharePoint, and Dropbox. Some of you may even be using a digital in-house solution but haven't taken the full plunge into doing everything digitally, which is okay, so that's why you're here today. So it's looking like everyone is just about wrapped up with their answers. Okay, great. It looks like a lot of you are still using paper, email, PDFs. A few of you are using some SharePoint and Dropbox, and then as well as some of you are still trying to be digital but haven't taken the full plunge. So I hope that we're going to be able to teach you a little bit more about board portals and how going digital will make your lives a little easier and more productive. So on that note, I'd like to hand things over to Richard to take us through the rest of today's webinar.
Thanks, Danielle. So to start with, I'm sure for a few of you on the phone, this is just the first time you're looking into this kind of secure technology for running your board and committee meetings. For some of you, you might have looked at this in the past. The definition of a board portal has probably changed in the last even 3 years, in my experience. Back in around 2012, I would have said it was a place to publish and access board materials, really as simple as that. Today, what we find companies are looking for and what a board portal is supposed to do is be one login to all the information your board members and executives need at their fingertips, and without the security risk that comes with shipping paper, emailing, or downloading PDFs. So the process obviously starts from an administrative perspective. Typically, we find this is in the president's office, in the corporate secretary office, where, and I'm sure many of you are in these positions on the phone right now. I know you're getting this information from different contributors. You're getting it at various times. It's coming to you in different file formats as well. So as you're getting this, you're either starting to assemble and print out hard copies, or most likely from an electronic format, you're trying to convert these files, whether it's Excel, Word, PowerPoint, PDF, into one big PDF. And typically we see that usually with bookmarks as well. Of course, that process can be painful. You're getting the materials at various times. You're not getting it all by the deadline of when you need it. You're getting these late documents. It's a pain in the neck to change that PDF or print out the information again, repaginate, and then that material is getting sent to the board later than they'd like. I'm sure you've had some whinging board members. They're not getting it a week before, and it's not the administrator's fault. They're getting that information late, and then board members not as prepared as they'd like to be for the board meeting, and a good proportion of the meetings, they're reading something new for the first time, and that's really not what they should be doing. So a board portal like Diligent allows you to prepare and build the material much faster. You're going to see that in a moment. It's much more flexible with changes. We've got administrative users of Diligent boards who are making changes, updating the agenda the morning of the meeting, even after the meeting has started, if you can believe that. I know that probably sounds like a nightmare to many of you, but it's a seamless change for the board members. The meeting's not disrupted in any way, and for our clients, their board members are much better prepared for the meeting. They're getting this information earlier. It's easier to extract the information out of it. They know what they're looking at. It's always up to date. So they're getting to the meeting, and that meeting is largely, if not entirely, spent in discussion. Nothing's being read for the first time. No handouts. No walking material. Everything is dynamically updated in the digital book. I'm sure some of you have had situations where there's been a conflict of interest, management doesn't get the minutes, compensation reports, and you end up having to create another version of the same book, whether that's a hard copy or PDF. You don't have to do that with the board portal. You should be able to restrict access all the way down to the document level. So you just keep one version, you're able to hide documents as you need to. And then from a board member and executive standpoint, it's no good just getting these documents and trying to sort of sift through it, figure out, where charts are in which sections, not just in the material for the upcoming meeting, but often they need to go back and reference previous meeting materials. Often a topic that's coming up in the January meeting came up at the January meeting last year. They need to be able to find that and reference it. If they're turning to the legal department to have to go digging through storage for this, that decision is getting tabled in the meeting. It's less efficient. So they're going to have access to the information much faster with this, and it's going to be more accurate, and they're going to be able to search across the current information and historical information as well. So what we'll do in a moment is actually dive into the board member experience so you can see how this makes their lives easier. Quickly, a little bit about Diligent. What we're going to look at is Diligent Boards. It's our flagship product. We pioneered this technology known as a board portal back in 2001. We've got over 3,700 companies that are utilizing this and running their board meetings with it. And it runs the gamut. It's any industry that you can think of, any entity with a board of directors. And what makes my job really easy is our client retention rate is through the roof. It's over 99%. And of those 3,700 companies, almost 80% are completely paperless. And that's not even one person turning around and asking for their assistant to print. A big reason for that is this user interface that you're going to see right now. So board members and executives can use Diligent Boards on any device. It could be their desktop PC, a Mac, Android tablets, Windows Surface tablets, or an iPad. An iPad is the device that we find most board members gravitate towards, so that's the device I'm going to walk you through today. But it's critical when you move in this direction, you're evaluating a provider like Diligent, you have to make sure that the interface is consistent across multiple devices, because there's a good chance someone's going to prefer something other than an iPad, or they'll leave it at home, they've got their laptop with them, or they prefer a different device. You want to just make sure they're looking at the same thing, they've got access to the same features. So I've got my iPad next to me, and what I'm going to do is use the AirPlay on my device so that you can see the screen. So if we look down the bottom here, and this is my iPad home screen, this is the Diligent Boards iPad app. So if I tap my finger on this, I come to a login screen. My username can be pre-populated, just so it's one less thing for me to remember. I put my password in there, I've tapped log on, and I've come to the home screen. One thing that board members really like right when they log in is not having to spend 2 minutes looking for the material for the next meeting. It's always right there in front of them. And how we set this up is the scenario that I'm a board member, and if we look to the top, we have a bookshelf that says main board, indicating I am on the board. We've also got 2 bookshelves here indicating that I'm a member of the audit committee and the executive committee. Now, I'm not on the operating committee or the governance committee. So it's very easy for an administrative user of Diligent Boards, again, that could be in the president's office or the corporate secretary office typically, for that person to restrict access. So if everyone should not receive everything, you can restrict that so they're only accessing the material for that meeting group. Any new digital book that you publish to the board is indicated to them when they log in. It says new, So if we look to the top, we've got an example of a new book. Now, any book that they've started reading that you then make changes to closer to the meeting, that's also indicated. It will say updates available, like we can see with the book at the bottom here. Now, what your board members and executives will do at this point is tap on the book that they want to read. It's going to sync or download a local copy. This means that they can access the material offline. This is crucial really for the two main scenarios when they're accessing and reading the board and committee materials. First of all, prior to the meeting, I'm sure for many of you, some of your board members are not local. They're getting on a plane, traveling to the meeting. They're probably reading a hard copy, whether they printed it or you've shipped it to them on the plane as they prepare. They need to continue to be able to do that with their digital copy. So that's where this sync comes in. And you can see it's very fast. Anywhere I do this, in our offices at Diligent or on site somewhere, it never takes me more than 12 seconds. And this sync is working in the background, which is nice. I can tap on go to agenda, start reading the book, because it's syncing page by page instead of one big PDF file. So instantly available to me. Now, if we look at the bottom book closely on the right-hand side where my mouse is, you can see it just said, if you caught it, 5 out of 5. That meant that only 5 pages were changed by an administrator. I don't have to sync the whole book again, only the changes. It will tell me how many updates have been made, and then I'm provided with a detailed update history of exactly what that change is. This is very popular with board members. It's easy to review a document, have that be revised with a minor change, and to then spend the next 10 minutes trying to find where that change is. So this is something they'll like. They can tap on their finger and jump immediately to it. So to recap, from this point forward, the user does not need an internet connection at all. So on a plane, but also in the board meeting, there's never any dependency on a strong Wi-Fi connection. Anyone struggling with the Wi-Fi password when they get there, the whole meeting's run offline, and it means there's no disruption either at the beginning or during. So let's go into the Q4 meeting book. I'll tap on Go to Agenda. And to flip the pages, all I'm doing is swiping with my finger either side. You can also tap with your finger. So just like if any of you have used a Kindle or iBooks, you can see the page fills the screen. They're going left and right like a paper book as well. That's crucial. What we find the secret comes down to in moving board members truly away from paper is you need to give them a digital solution that looks and feels as close to that paper copy as possible. That really helps ease the mental transition away from paper. So this is something that will resonate with them. Now, if you slide your finger over from the left-hand side about 1 inch, it pulls across the agenda for the meeting. One thing that board members will be looking for in how they already navigate the book with a paper copy is they need to be able to flip the pages and reference the agenda or the table of contents at the same time. A lot of board portals struggle with that, and it's a bit of a downfall. It's a big reason that Diligent is chosen and why the interface is so well received. You can see it highlights wherever I go in blue. There's no risk of me getting confused where I am. I can slide this out of the way. There's a dotted line at the bottom, and this is just my invisible finger sliding along. I can use this to find any page instantly in the book, or I can tap on the page number in the bottom right corner and type it in. Particularly handy in the meeting when whoever's chairing will direct everyone to a certain page. They can all get there at the same time. What I'll move to now is showing you how your board members and executives can annotate their material. There's a pencil in the top right corner. This opens up the options, so there's a highlighter. And I'm just doing this with my finger. Let's pretend to mark up this book. There is a pen, different colors as well. Still just my finger. Ease of handwriting, in our experience, is a big factor in whether board members will fully give up paper or not. Generally what we find is if they're using a system that doesn't give them a way to make notes easily electronically, they'll do one of two things. They will bring a notepad with them and just scribble on that with a pen, or they're going to be asking or printing a paper copy in order to be able to do that as well. With Diligent, you can write really precisely, and a neat little trick here that I've started doing is to pinch zoom, like you would with any touchscreen device, and then tap on pen, and then write. You can see when I zoom out, the bit of writing that I did there is as precise as a real pen on paper. So you can feel confident. You know, if you were using a board portal such as Diligent, they would use this. It's not a reason anyone might turn around and ask you for paper. There's another option up the top here, sticky notes. This is where they can use the keyboard. You can also dictate notes. If you've got anyone on your board that heavily dictates, people really like this, and I'll give you a quick example. Ask Danielle about this when I see her at the meeting next week. You can see, really reliable. All of these annotations are private to me as the owner. One thing that, as an organization, you can enable for your users is the ability to share notes. If I tap on private, I can share this note with everyone that's got access to the book or select people. You can see it looks a little different there. So if in fact I shared this with Danielle, she'd receive a notification on her home screen. She would be able to jump from there to page 50 in her book. She would see my notes, and when she taps on it, my name would be there as the author, and then she could add a comment. So for those of you that are looking to foster more collaboration on the board, this gets widely used for that purpose. Discussion points, raising questions prior to the meeting. You end up with this nice discussion thread, and it's around the content as well. We don't need to close this, open the book, find the page, read it, come all the way back. Now, if I tap done in the top corner, top left corner, and slide my finger back over, up the top here where it says annotations, when I tap it, opens up a window where I can find all of my comments. Really handy when someone walks in the room for the meeting. While we're here, you can see there's a voting tab at the top. I'm sure for many of you on the phone, during the meeting or in between meetings, the board are completing written consents, voting on resolutions. For a lot of Diligent clients, they're using Diligent boards for that purpose as well. I can jump to the signature page immediately if I know how I'm voting, and it's really straightforward. You just follow the prompt. Let's say I'll vote for this, and you'll see it's stamped to my signature with the date and time. Top left corner here where it says status, I can check the status of the vote, see how other people have voted, and that's particularly useful for those of you on the phone who conduct votes in between meetings. With this, you don't have to email board members to find out if they've actually got round to doing that yet. You're going to be able to see that here. This can become part of the record of the book. Now, a couple more things, and then we're going to move over to the back-end administrative interface. This icon in the top left corner opens up some of the other functionality that our clients make use of. Current books refers to books or material for upcoming meetings. Archive books are your historical meeting books. Now, they're a master clean copy that you published in the first place. Accessible by your board members at any point. And if we look towards the top right-hand corner, this magnifying glass opens up a search. And this will be crucial to your board members, a big benefit over PDF, internal systems, and paper. What it does is it allows them to search by word or phrase. What I'm doing is I'm searching across all my archive books in my site. The most common use case for this will be in your board meetings. I mentioned at the beginning a topic might have come up at the January meeting last year as an example. Rather than asking any of you to possibly go looking through storage to find that book and that page, during the board meeting, they can find that themselves within about 8 seconds. I can tap on any of these results. You can see they're highlighted in yellow, the words that I've searched for. So it keeps the meeting moving. Again, no decisions are being postponed until this information has been obtained. Next section, the Resource Center. This is like a governance library where you can place anything else that's relevant to the board. And I'm sure all of you that are in the administrative capacity, assembling the board materials, you're putting documents in the meeting packet like charters, guidelines, procedures, press releases, director manual, probably some chunky documents, and a lot of these are not changing that frequently. You can upload them to this section. They've always got access to them. What I've got here in this site are just some examples. You would be able to create whatever you like. It's all word searchable, same permissions in place, everything's available offline, and it all navigates just like a board book. There's nothing new to learn. There's a contact section. This is where you could place everyone's contact details for everyone on the board, executive committee. There's also a built-in calendar. You can filter, it's all color-coded. Anyone joining remotely, you can include a WebEx or GoToMeeting link. This is all available offline as well. There's also a built-in survey questionnaire tool, which unfortunately we don't have time to go through today. But for any kind of D&O or questionnaire, self-evaluation, that's used by our clients as well. But hopefully all of you can see the potential with this. There's no junk. There's nothing that your board members and executives would not use and would be in the way. Really clean interface, one place for your board and executives to go to get everything they need. So what we'll do now is switch over to the administrative side so we can see how this data gets in there. What I've just pulled over on the screen, this application is called OneClick. It's our classic PC application. This is what an administrative user of the site will be using. This is the book that we just went through on the iPad, the Q4 meeting book, the other features that we took a look at. As an administrator, you will right-click with your mouse and select Create Book from Scratch the first time you're creating a meeting book. All you do is select the date and put in a title. Under Groups, this is where you select who this is for, whether it's the board or it is, in fact, a subcommittee. Now, we're presented with this blank screen. One thing I brought up at the beginning is we often find staff who are responsible for the assembly are receiving files from different departments. They're coming at different times, various file formats. So those of you that are responsible for the assembly of the materials, I imagine you're saving these files in a folder somewhere on your network. That's generally what we find, and I've opened up a simulation of this, a folder on my network called Board Meeting Documents. I've got two examples here, a November folder I've created and a February meeting folder. We see a lot of staff organize the files in their original format according to a numbering system based on the agenda. That's what we can see here, and I think for many of you this will look quite familiar. If you go into the February folder, we've created subfolders first. It's a little more granular, and we see staff responsible for the assembly use this method when there's more than one document to do with a particular agenda item. So you might have bulleted items on the agenda. For example, if we go into minutes, we have the minutes and a written consent. So we've numbered these accordingly, 2.1, 2.2. Now, I'm sure both of these folders or one of them will look pretty similar to how many of you are saving the documents as you get them. Whichever way you do it, Diligent will use the organization you already do today. And what I mean by that is you can drag and drop your whole folder of files right into the Diligent Boards portal. And what it does is it gives you a preview window first of how your book will be formatted. So if we compare to our folder, Agenda 1, Minutes 2, Minutes 2, if we go inside 2.1, 2.2, 2.1, 2.2 subtabs, and so on, we'll go ahead and click Import. And what happens next is it's going to automatically create the agenda that we saw on the left-hand side on the iPad. And it's uploading every file simultaneously. And during that upload, it's converting the files to a proprietary PDF. It's getting encrypted so it's secure, it's read-only. So there's no conversion to PDF that any of you would need to do with this. While it's building, we can make edits. We can move for example, let's say the written consent is in the wrong place, it should be moved up. We're going to put the financials down here. It will bring any subtabs that exist as well. If you need to replace a document, it's so easy to customize this. Let's say that the financials changed. I'm sure for many of you, that's one of the last documents that you receive. It's as simple as a drag and drop, whether it's a revision or a new document. At this point, you could go, get lunch, come back. It's going to be done. And the last couple of things that we'll do here for the last 3 minutes that we have is we're going to approve the book. Diligent Boards has a built-in approval process, really for internal audit best practices. We're saying when you've uploaded the files, they're not yet approved yet, and that's why we can see on the left that they are red. You've got 2 approval levels, not final, like a work in progress, or final. I'm approved, setting the entire book as approved final, all in one go. Anything that you're missing will appear as grey, anything that's late. Now, even at this point, your board members cannot see this book. They're only ever going to see the material when you're ready for them to see it. There will never be any accidents there. The last thing that you do to publish the book is we'll go back to the edit book screen where we just saw everything uploading and click hidden in the top left corner. We will change this to current, viewable on director's site. Now, wherever your board members are, they can immediately see the book. You'll be able to notify them by emailing from within Diligent Boards, and this email passes through the portal. It's actually using your company address, so it's familiar to the board. You can organize this by groups. That eliminates any potential risk of forgetting someone off the email. You can notify them that the February book is ready for them. And for a lot of our administrative users of this, they will publish the book 7 days before every meeting without fail. They know that on that day, they might not have the complete book, but they'll probably have 75, 80% of it complete. So they'll publish it. Board members will look at this. They'll see anything that's black is final, ready to read. Anything that's missing will be grey. And so they'll know what's coming. They know you don't have it yet. It gives them that head start on reading the material that's ready. And they know when you update the book, they'll be notified within the application. They're going to get to the meeting better prepared. And like I said at the beginning, most of that meeting with something like this will be spent in discussion. And that's really the book building process. For a lot of our clients, end to end, this is taking them no more than 30 minutes. And a couple of things with the last minute that we have. One thing that's crucial when you move in this direction is training. You absolutely want to make sure all of your users are trained individually. That means they can learn at their own speed, whether that's faster or slower, depending on their technology comfort level. They'll ask every question they've got, even one that feels a little embarrassing. And you want to make sure that you have ongoing 24/7, 365 support. They'll forget their passwords. That's the biggest challenge board members have moving to a secure system like this. You want to make sure that that responsibility doesn't fall on staff, that they're getting prompt responses from the vendor, such as Diligent, where it's not taking 30 minutes or an hour, but it's happening, in our case, within 5 seconds every single time. With that, over to Danielle.
Okay, great. Thank you, Richard. So we did have a few questions come in, so I know that we're going to go probably about 5 minutes over time. So if you guys have any meetings to catch, feel free to exit the webinar. But if you have any questions, also stick around, and also to hear some of your fellow listeners' questions as well. So we had a question. Is Diligent available on Microsoft and other tablets aside from iPad?
Yes. So any device via the web browser. Diligent has built native apps for the iPads, PC, and a Windows app. So the Windows app was actually requested for us to build by Microsoft. That application will work, for example, on a Windows Surface tablet or a laptop even, if the laptop is running Windows 8 or above.
Our next question, can the administrators create the content on a Mac?
Yes, they can, is the short answer. Same process. on a Mac, and certainly we've got plenty of administrators using that device.
Okay, on mobile devices, is the data encrypted when it's like a resting mobile device, like a tablet?
Yes, so our mobile apps are actually encrypted databases. So they're encrypted for the technical folk on the phone at AES 256-bit encryption, all the way down to the page level. So that means that a user cannot move that data anywhere else. It's only accessible within the Diligent application, meaning they cannot email it anywhere. It can't be extracted out by a user or any other app on their device. No copy-paste, no backup to iCloud, iTunes. Bottom line, it's staying within the application. And as a business, you're pushing it out, like I said at the very beginning, and then you're able to wipe the application, do a content wipe of that material, and pull it back at any point.
Great. What types of files are supported on the portal? Does the file need to be in a PDF format, and what other formats is it?
Really any file format. Most commonly that we see getting uploaded by clients, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, PDF. There's certainly no need for it to be in PDF format. One of the nice things for staff using this is you don't have to convert those files when you get them into a PDF before uploading. That conversion process happens automatically within Diligent.
Okay, great. For members who leave the board, how is that configured in the board portal?
When a member leaves the board, you as an administrative user at the company with the access rights are able to remove their access immediately. And similarly, if you need to add a user, that's also something that can be done by the administrator. But removal of access can be done, right when that's announced.
Okay. Just a few more questions before we wrap up. Can an organization use Diligent to manage multiple boards and committees? So, for example, they ask for like school board admin teams, curriculum committee, etc.
Absolutely, and this, for a good proportion of our clients, they've got multiple boards and are using Diligent to run those meetings. So various boards and committees, you're able to, basically in your Diligent site, they are subgroups and they have their own permissions. So for example, when a board member is on board A but they're not on board B, they're not going to see that information. So very easy to use it for that multiple boards and committees.
Another common question, can users still print board documents?
Yes, we realize it could be a little scary for some of your board members, and they might be digging their nails into the hard copy. They don't want to give it up. Yes, printing can be done by an administrator. You can print, any of you still looking at the screen here, right-click on a book and you can see there's a print book option there. All nice formatting, besides the pagination, headers, footers, the tab numbers bookmarked in the corner. You can also export it as a PDF, and you can also give a user the ability to print themselves, and you can control that on a book and a user level. So sometimes you have clients where they want to remove the ability to print to kind of nudge all their board members in this direction, but the chair is adamant they need to be able to print, maybe not the whole book, but certain sections. In that scenario, you could turn on printing just for the chair. They would be able to do it from their computer or mobile device.
Okay, and then I think we just have time for one last question in relation to printing and syncing the books. Is there an actual log of when the directors sync, when they view, when they take notes, things like that?
Good question. There is not, by design, any kind of logging or tracking of board member activity. Frankly, they wouldn't use it if something like that did exist, if Big Brother was watching them. So it's built this way to ensure there's no additional legal discoverability risk for your board members. So there's nothing tracking when they log in, what they've read, what they haven't read, just as if it was a paper process.
Okay, great. And I think that's all the questions we have time for today, so everyone can get back to their Thursdays. So if you guys have any additional questions, or if you had any questions that were not answered, we will be sure to follow up with you, so don't worry. And I just want to take the time to thank you for joining us today. You will be all sent a replay of the webinar. You should receive that shortly. And if you have any additional questions that were unanswered or weren't asked, or would like to see a full demo of Diligent Boards, just let Richard know. His contact information is available on your screen at the moment.